most all that go. I found out that the near-death experience was a ruse, that we're in a net, we're in lockdown. This is not about karma and reincarnation. They reincarnate. This interdimensional reptilian race keeps us in a cycle.
Well, do you feel like a messenger of sorts? You said at one time on your website, I never wanted to be a messenger. But do you feel like a messenger of sorts?
Well, I feel like I stumbled upon this EVP and then reverse speaking. It just happened. Whether it was ordained or not, I don't know. I don't feel that this is anything special with me. It's not my great gifts or my big psychic ability. It's nothing to do with that. It's a technical modality that I happened upon, and my intention for the website was to try to get other people listening too, because the more the better.
And you succeeded.
That's the best part of this.
And what does EVP stand for?
It's electronic voice phenomena. It's capturing spirit voices on digital and tape recorders. And I found that really interesting, and I decided I was going to try to do this. And for 3 months, I never heard anything. And then
where'd you first hear about it?
Well, years ago, I was on like a sighting show. I think that was the first time I'd heard anything. People would go out to like the Confederate cemeteries or different places and pick up voices, and I always thought that was very interesting. But I wanted to take it to a new level. I thought, well, I would like to really speak to spirit guides, extraterrestrials. Didn't know what I was getting into. Angels. I didn't want to just talk to dead people. I really wanted more, but it took me in a whole other direction.
About reverse speech, you say, I, like virtually all of you, have been on the same quest and literally stumbled into EVP and reverse speaking. These open doors to me. I've heard it described as pulling aside the net for a glimpse out. It certainly has its limitations, but I've come to rely on this as probably the least corrupted source of information within this net, as there is no conscious control over it. We can't give ourselves reversals. It isn't conditioned by what we believe, nor what we have been taught. It is outside of time and reveals the past as well as the probable future, which is not cast in stone. In all of the 400 plus people I have listened to in reverse, no one has ever given a different story nor contradicted this basic information. Many add to it, but it is always the same story.
Right.
So you're starting to reverse EVP for the first time, and what are you discovering?
That Francis was pretending to be my spirit guides, the elementals, the earth, that he and his little group of friends were jerking me around. And then they came up, once I started to get it, they admitted it and laughed, and they thought it was just a tremendous joke that I was so gullible. And that's when I tried to get rid of him, of course, but then he was not going to go. But it wasn't until I started really talking to him, and this took a long time because he wasn't the kind you could just sit down and have a regular conversation with. He really was quite mentally ill, actually. He had died of rabies, and I think that carried over into the other world. And but he would, if he was in a mood, he would answer my questions and about what life was like over there and all that. So the reversals, once I knew I could always catch a lie, I had a lot more confidence about talking to these people, because I knew that if they were going to jerk me around, I would catch it right away. And once they knew that, the lies stopped. One night, I'll never forget it, I was so disgusted with this whole thing, and I thought, everybody's telling me, just put the things away. Why are you doing this? You're jerking around with these lower astral and people, and they're just liars and screwed up. And I laid there in bed, and I thought, why do I do this? And I had this thing happen to me, and one of those things you really can't put into words, but it was like I knew there was something I had to do, and I couldn't put it aside. And from then on in, I stopped trying. And it's been a circuitous path, but finally, one thing, it was like the onion, opening, trying to get to the heart of what all this layers of stuff was.
Now, what types of people have you reversed, Peggy?
All kinds of politicians, because they're making the decisions that affect everybody's life. Lots of people in the UFO field, in the metaphysical field, just people on talk shows, friends, myself all the time, and lots of spirit people.
What are some of the most astounding reversals from these people that you've heard? Some that really stick out.
When I first heard that on the wedding of Charles and Camilla, when the Reptilian said, "Yeah, I'm a wolf peg, but who's going to believe this?" It's such a bizarre story. I have lots of them. I have reversals from Pleiadians who used my voice to communicate with me. Lots of reversals referring to the One or God, and how things are going to be so much better in the right after we get through this, what's coming up.
How do you think that happens, that the mind is able to transmit this information onto an electronic media?
Well, I think it's new. I think it hasn't had a chance to be corrupted as much by the reptilians. Reptilians know our minds inside out and backwards, way more than we do. They're dreamscapers, they channel, they do, they give us all kinds of visions, they dress up as angels, whatever. But this is new, and I don't think they saw the impact. They didn't see it coming. And given enough time, I guarantee you they'd corrupt it. They would find a way. But right now, there's times when it can be manipulated, but it's few and far between. And if people here and there and there and there and all are actually working with this, they're going to have a hard time with this because it's a new thing. They've had thousands of years to play with our mind.
Now, you've also said that the reptilians are starting to have the capabilities of changing files in your computer.
They have done that, but it's crude. They usually say sexual things or threaten me. It doesn't happen very often with big voices. They can change EVP very easily, though.
Now, you're the first person that I know of to reverse EVP. Are there others before you that have done that?
I'd heard of others reversing, but obviously people are very fixated on wanting to speak to loved ones, and that's why I left AAEVP, American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena, because people were sending files out of their deceased children, and all you have to do is reverse it, and oh my God, this was not their child, but they want to believe that. The people, Tom and Lisa Butler, are terrific people, but they have a lot invested in this. They were advisors on the movie White Noise. They've got books out. If they start reversing, they're listening to reptilians, I'm telling you, because I've been reversing their files. But people get invested in these things. They have too much to lose to hear the truth.
What was life really like on the astral realm once he and his friends began sharing honestly with you, knowing that you had the reverse speech tool to find out whether or not they were lying to you? What did you begin to find out?
They live pretty much like we do, except it's darker, more predatory. They have to make money. They do mostly by stealing, gambling. People steal constantly to get things. They're drug addicts there. I talked to Geraldine. She's a heroin addict. They get together and have orgies just because that's nothing much else to do. They try to get business deals going, which is usually kind of seedy stuff. I actually talked to, or he was supposed to have business dealings with a man who was part of the Manson family.
TJ.
His name was TJ. That didn't pan out, but it's very dark. It's very gangs, street gangs. He would talk about the gangs are in the city tonight. It was just not a place you want to be.
How did Francis's friends on the other side treat him?
They mostly didn't like him. He wasn't very popular because he was a pain in the neck.
And what became of them?
They all went to the Pleiades.
Okay, now, before we get to that part of the evolution of what happened with you and in your contact with Francis, at one point you said you realized, and in your own words, that I just knew this had nothing to do with God, and you began to research this dark world